By the end of the 19th century, Japan was emerging as a modern imperialist power. The Japanese followed the example of Western nations while trying to preserve Japanese values. By 1800s, the Tokugawa shogunate had ruled Japan for 200 years. It had kept an isolationist policy, allowing only Dutch and Chinese merchants at its ports at Nagasaki. Western nations wanted to end Japan's isolation, believing that the expansion of trade on a global basis would benefit all nations. The first foreign power to succeed with Japan, a part of China and the Dutch, was the United States. In the summer of 1853, Commodore Matthew Perry arrived in Edo Bay. Perry brought a letter from President Millard Fillmore, where he asked to open foreign relations between the United States and Japan. But not only that, they also asked the Japanese for a better treatment of sailors shipwrecked on the Japanese islands. Foreign sailors shipwrecked in Japanese islands were treated as criminals and exhibited in public cages. With no answer at the moment of the Japanese government, Commodore Perry promised to return back in a year with a better and larger fleet, and so he did. A year later, under military pressure, Japan signed the Treaty of Kanagawa, in which Japan returned the shipwrecked sailors and also it opened two of their ports for Western merchants. Resistance to the foreign relations was especially among warriors. The Satsho Samurai Region Alliance had genuinely mistrusted the West, but they soon realized that Japan must change to survive. The new leaders embarked on a policy of reform that transformed Japan into a modern industrial nation. The symbol of the new era was the young Emperor Matsuhito. He called his reign the Meiji, or Enlightened Rule. This period has become known as the Meiji Restoration. To undercut the power of the local nobles, they were stripped of their lands in 1871. In turn, the new leaders were named governors of the territories formerly under their control. The territories were now called prefectures. After the new type of government was applied, they soon copied Western imperialism. The Japanese knew that Western nations had amassed some of their wealth and power because of their colonies. Those colonies had provided sources of raw materials, inexpensive labor, and markets for manufactured products. To compete, Japan will also have to expand. The Japanese began their program of territorial expansion close to home. In 1874, Japan claimed control of the Ryukyu Islands, which belonged to the Chinese Empire. 2 years later, Japan Navy forced the Koreans to open their ports to Japanese trade. China also ceded Taiwan and the Liaodong Peninsula, with its strategic naval base at Port Arthur to Japan. In time, the Japanese gave the Liaodong Peninsula back to China. Rivalry with Russia over influence in Korea led to increasingly strained relations. The Russo-Japanese War began in 1904, from which Japan ended up victorious. After their defeat, the Russians agreed to a humiliating peace in 1905. They gave the Liaodong Peninsula back to Japan. The Japanese victory stunned the world. Japan had finally become one of the greatest powers after only 30 years. Foreign influence and pressure over the Japanese government is what shaped the country we know now. They taught Japan how to become a powerful country. The social standards also changed, thanks to the influence as the old social statement passed away, and with it, most of the Japanese culture and tradition. All this led to the current Japan we know, an industrialized, technological, innovative, and modern country. Now, if Japan had refused to sign the Treaty of Kanagawa, it would be a completely different country, an isolated country associated with only those the government thought were worthy. Perhaps their traditions and old living style will endure, but somehow there will still be influence of powerful countries, influences that could end up with the world they knew. However, there was no other way to become a powerful region. Moreover, Japan wouldn't be the modernized and technological country we know.